Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Health Without the System. I am Dr. Tim Scott.
And my name is Mia Scott, and I'm a nurse practitioner here with Rixa Health. Welcome back, guys. So today is our 10th episode, so we're going to do something just a little bit different here. We're going to dive into what we consider just real talk about wellness, our lives, what we've gotten into over the last few months or years, or, just kind of our journey and some health myths.
Yeah, where we're at, what we're doing. We've had a lot of questions along the way. We try to answer them with various podcasts, other content that's rolling out. We thought today would just be a quick chat so you can get in our headspace, our lifestyle a little bit, and we'd love to take you on that journey for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah. So first, to start off, what are we into lately? And this has gone back for probably, I would say like overall the last year. And might be supplements, food that we've tried, and some other things like that. So number one, we have started to the lineage provision. What are those called? The beef sticks?
Yeah.
Or the organ meats?
There's desiccated organs.
Yep.
They have different beef sticks.
So we've been waiting for a
one.
long time to try these, and we've actually heard these as like, sponsorships and other podcasts. So we decided to give them a try. It's Dr. Paul Saladino's brand, and we dove in and got some creatine and some of those beef sticks, and my kids love them. Tim's a little bit partial. He feels like he has to add like a piece of cheese or something with it.
They're a little gamey. I'm not going to lie. It's the regenerative cow, sustained land in New Zealand, that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more gamey than a standard beef stick. I like to mix it with a cheddar cheese, an organic cheddar cheese stick. And it tastes totally fine to me that way. But I'm not going to lie, eating it just a little bit plain has a little weird taste.
See, I think it's great. If you're a hunter, eat deer, things like that, I think it's wonderful.
Our 2-year-old daughter will chow them like it's going out of style. But you also mentioned the creatine, and that's newer for me. We've talked in some of our previous episodes about the benefits of creatine outside of just muscle mass, some of the cognitive benefits and things like that. And I've been now on creatine for about a month. I wouldn't say I have like a distinct difference that I've noticed from it, but we did recently go on vacation and I did get a lot of compliments there on the way I look. People always tell me they don't think that I'm 40 years old. I'm not going to attribute that to just creatine, but I do think my muscle mass has improved a little bit. So I think that one's kind of cool for me. I'm going to keep doing it and I'm going to try to get more regular because I haven't been doing it every day.
And we'll add to your muscle preservation too with the other peptides that we'll talk about that we've added in our journey. But I agree, creatine, I actually like that as well. I've been doing that for probably a year or two on and off, just depending on the cycle of what I'm doing. If I'm heavy weightlifting, if I'm training for something, just depends. Typically all of our supplements that we talk about, we cycle. There's a few diehards, like we take the cod liver oil. That's actually a great one, the omega-3 that we've added. That is my favorite brand is Jigsaw right now. They have a liquid in a capsule, and we've done the capsule that's worked out great. The reason I like them is they test every batch. They, monitor for heavy metals and
sustainability.
So it's a really good quality. In fish oil, you have to have good quality. As we know, if you've listened to our other podcasts, you can have very rancid fish oil where it can change its like form of omega and be an oxidized fish oil. And that is even worse than just not taking it all together. So be very careful with the fish oil that you take. But that's our brand that we use. We recommend that to a lot of our patients.
You were talking diehards. You mentioned the omega-3. So I think our diehards are probably vitamin D, magnesium, omega-3, turmeric. That's in my little pill case. Like I'm 80 every single week.
And those are just like every single day that we take. Of course, there's a slew of other ones that we dabble into. Like we said, the creatine and the B complex and the amino acids and other things like that.
I kind of cycle amino acids. I've done a couple rounds of those and then I'll back off. I think the creatine I'm going to stick with as close to daily as I can. Yeah. I do add collagen to my coffee pretty much every single day.
Yep,
so
same.
That's a daily for me as well.
Awesome. And then sauna, red light. These are things that I wish I could have more time to enjoy the sauna. The red light is a lot quicker. It's just, 10-minute sessions. I love that. That's great for mitochondria health. That APT or ATP. Oh my goodness. Why can I not think of it? The production of energy. So ATP, ATP. So I had it right the first time. So when you stand in front of these lights, it basically just stimulates your mitochondria, which is your powerhouse of your cells. It gives you lots of energy, helps with so much. Seasonal depression, if anybody has that with the changes of season, winter, cold weather, that is a great alternative. That's something that I've done pretty much all winter long, at least a few times a week, but it'd be great if you could do it daily.
I think that falls into the whole kind of category of, biohacking and trying to take your own wellness to the next level. Yeah. It's like, how can I get down further to that cellular level of happiness? How do I make my cells happy? And within your cells, you have a mitochondria. How do I make my mitochondria happy? And, we're dabbling in that. We like cryotherapy or cold therapy. I'm not going to lie. I can't do cold plunging. I can't get in a big tub of cold water. It's too much for me. I can do cryotherapy. Like I can get in a cold chamber. Maybe it's not as good. I don't know. Some people say it is. Some people say it isn't, but it works for me. I like it. But also, I think grounding is also in that category. A few months ago, you bought us the grounded sheets because we live in Ohio. So, I could go outside in the winter and ground, but I can't do it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going barefoot in the snow on the ground.
So yeah, that's another thing that we do. It's probably been longer than that, probably about 8 months or so that we've had those. Yeah. But nonetheless, they're grounding sheets. You do have the mats and things of that nature, but why not just do it when you're sleeping the entire time and just lay it as it's an entire sheet. It's not just like a mat that you lay on your bed. So, and it plugs into the grounding cable of your outlet. Super simple to understand. But of course, our body is electricity. Theory behind that, you're grounding yourself. Negative energy is coming out. It can help with inflammation, better sleep, mental health, all the things. So
yeah, it was kind of funny when we first started that, like we had both noticed, like, are we having more back pain or muscle tightness? We thought maybe like it had to do with that. Also, I remember, and I don't know why, I don't think it was related, but within those first couple of weeks, I woke up like covered in sweat a couple times.
Well, I thought I had the flu, remember? Because even your mom was talking about that, and she was like, wanting to get those sheets, and I'm like, forewarn you, like, I don't know if it was just coincidence, but for like the first 3 or 4 days, I felt like that I was coming down with something, and who knows, maybe it was just in my head or maybe just coincidence, but I personally thought that was definitely doing some type of detox to me. But yeah, I like them. We stuck with them.
I definitely remember the one night your pajamas had smelled like you did a marathon. I'm like, okay, you're going to need to wash those.
No, he's the one who sweats a lot, but he can be laying there with a fan on, windows open in the dead of winter, and I'm like, what is going on? So highly recommend. We use just the grounding company, I think it was called.
Yeah, I've looked up the link before, but I'd have to double check.
Yeah, so that's another thing that we've added. The other thing that we added was the guided meditation. We always tell our patients, meditate to relieve stress, all the other things. And we're like, you know what? We are preaching it. Why aren't we trying it? So we decided to it's just on Spotify or anywhere that you can get.
The Insight Timer. It's an app.
Oh, you use the app now?
Yeah, yes. You can pay to like have a premium membership, but we use the free membership.
Yep. But it's interesting. I mean, you can even do like 8 to 10 minute, or a long one that it's just like a guided meditation that you just kind of slowly listen to what they're saying as you're trying to fall asleep. I feel like I fall asleep within like minutes of that.
I don't think we ever make it more than 10 minutes.
No, but nonetheless, I mean, it's great for falling asleep. So that's another good one.
We have worked that into, we have protocols for some of our clients, like if they're having issues with sleep. Obviously, there's certain supplements that you can dial in. There's, healthy sleeping habits like no blue light after 9 p.m., turning off, TV, radio, that kind of stuff. But I have actually found that to be a healthy habit. If it's someone that it's not distracting to them to fall asleep or they find benefit, like I said, it knocks us out right away. And I don't think either one of us have trouble sleeping per se. I could certainly get distracted. Like if we get on doom scrolling or we get into a show, I could binge watch a show all night and not fall asleep. My wife, on the other hand, once she's ready, she passes out. But I have noticed if I feel like I'm in that mode where I'm going to be up all night or binge watch a show, if I make myself turn it off and I put on Insight Timer, I will be asleep within 5 minutes.
Yeah, sleep health, it definitely matters. And then what's in our cabinet? So the wellness bag, what's in our wellness bag right now? Well, we are still finishing up a little bit of our peptides from the marathon. Tim did a marathon. I did the half in, 3 weeks ago now?
Just a few weeks ago, the end of April.
Yeah, so that's something that, once again, that we cycle with. And my favorite peptide that I've tried so far has definitely been the CJC 1295 ipamorelin. It's a combo. It is great for that muscle preservation, building muscle, repair, recovery, better sleep health. It does so much, but that's, energy. It's done a lot for me, and I definitely felt a difference with that. So that's something that I'll probably add that to my regimen a few times a year to cycle with that peptide. It's worth it. You've done Samorelin, BPC.
So Samorelin and CJC ipamorelin fall into that category of growth hormone production and secretion. So I like that because it's less risky than if you're taking an exogenous hormone. So some people may get prescribed an exogenous growth hormone or even like testosterone gels and stuff you've heard in men and women. And the reason I like these a little bit better is because they work within your body's own endocrine axis. So it stimulates, the pituitary gland to promote or to create and release growth hormone rather than putting it in your body. When that happens, your body is only going to respond within its capabilities. Some people might get a huge response. Some people might get a little response. But the point is your body's going to respond with what it can do. And it's not going to make a level that becomes dangerous to you or that it can't tolerate. Whereas if you take an exogenous hormone, whether it be growth hormone or testosterone, that's going to be metabolized through the liver, and your body has to deal with everything you put in. So if you put in more than it happens to need or be able to use, that's when you're going to start to experience some of those side effects. Whereas if you're using peptide therapy, you really don't get those side effects. Maybe just a little bit of flushing when you take it is probably the biggest side effect that I note. And BPC 157 kind of has that gut health. It improves the brain-gut communication access. It does improve blood flow to vessels, to muscles, increases blood vessel formation. It's known for healing, muscle recovery, support like that. So those have been beneficial.
We have a handful of patients on the BPC, not only to prevent injury during like a marathon training or something like that, but after an injury has already occurred. It has definitely helped speed up the healing process and, prevent future injury. So very common peptides and very popular now. So we've loved them.
Yeah, we talk about peptides a lot, and there's tons of different peptides out there. Make sure you're sourcing them safely. Back in 2023, there were a few really common peptides that people were using that the FDA put on the dangerous substance list. We clearly think there was some political or financial motivation behind that. I do think it's working to get some of those off the substance list, but make sure that you're getting them, preferably from places within the United States. Hopefully it's a pharmacy that's FDA regulated, basically so you know that you're getting, what they say you're getting, no impurities, all the normal things that you want.
Yeah, and FDA regulated is different than FDA approved.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what we care about is the regulation. They still have to be monitored, but FDA
you don't need to be
approval
FDA approved.
Yeah. All right, I think that sums up our last couple of things that we've done in the wellness world of our lifestyle. So we're going to go on to wellness myths that we used to believe. A quick little backstory in general. Like I think that if you've ever listened to any of our other podcasts, we've been in the wellness world for a very long time, but the wellness world can be very different based on education. And of course, as we grow, our education grows and our views change. And that's okay, because why wouldn't you want a provider who changes views based on new science and new education and just living the experience of things that we see? So the first thing that we laugh about, some things that we used to feel or thought that was healthy. And this was probably, 6-ish, put a question mark after that, years ago when we started to dabble in the plant-based meats, when we were going after okay, let's see what would be.
Well, so what drove that? First, we decided, or we, were told or learned that it may not be that healthy to eat meat. So we decided we wanted to go vegetarian, and we didn't do vegan. We were going to be vegetarian.
Yep.
And we decided, there's inflammatory molecules in meat. We were concerned about, ferritin, heme iron, other things like that.
Increased homocysteine levels and all these big scary.
So we decided we were going to go vegetarian. That was probably our first and biggest dive into a lifestyle change.
Yep. And I went into this after, what is it called? How Not to Die. That was the book by Dr. Michael McGregor. And he launched my full blown wellness journey of I want to know a lot of views so I can choose what I like and pull from, things that I want to do and not just look at one single view. So, but when I did start to read that book, The How Not to Die, he really made it where you could not eat meat. And so we were trying to dabble into the plant-based meats. And now we know, and we look back at that, when we go to the store, if we ever look at the ingredients, that would never come into our house freezer. I mean, I don't even feel like I would feed that to my chickens. It's 50 plus ingredients. You can't pronounce half of them. The same stuff that we preach. Heavy seed oils, very gross processed food. Wasn't for us. And we were doing the hamburgers, the fake pork sausage. I can feel that texture already. It's just, it was terrible.
And listen, I'm not going to lie. Some of them were pretty good.
Pretty close.
I mean, it tasted like a real
Whopper.
burger. The texture. Yeah. I mean, they were good. I didn't mind eating it, but
some of them were sketchy.
Yeah, some were gross or sketchy. But
tofu, I don't know how you guys do tofu. That's one thing I just cannot do. Tempeh was okay. But other than that, we were in for a rude awakening once we started to go a little bit farther into our journey to realize that the plant-based meats were by at no means at all health foods. And so we cut those completely. And now if anybody, knows us now, we have meat in our diet. We are okay with grass-fed beef, wild-caught salmon, all the things that we talk about.
We raise our own broiler chickens.
Yep. Yeah. So sourcing matters in cutting the processed food. I don't believe that someone is going to get, die of a heart attack and heart disease eating whole plant-based or plant predominant with added sources of your fish and your beef and the things like that. It's the processed stuff. It is maybe what's in between your burger patty, McDonald's, fries, the seed oils that they use to process it.
Absolutely. And, again, and I'm sure we'll say, but it's the processing. It's the added ingredients. It's the bleaching, the washing, the alcohols. all of the things that they add to processed foods, different gums, binders, all these carcinogens, it all comes back to that at the end of the day.
Yep. So if you guys ever want a burger and you're, heart healthy or whatever, and you don't go for a Beyond Burger or something that has way too many ingredients, just eat the darn grass-fed burger and call it a day. That it's okay. And
I don't know. I don't remember. This has made me think of the next thing that we can mention, the health myths or things we used to think was bad. I'm not sure if you put it on that list, so let me just say it. Cholesterol. Let's talk about that.
Oh, this entire podcast could be about cholesterol. Yeah, we would die without it. Let's just put it there. Or we could end this right now saying that you would die without cholesterol. But there are bad, and I wouldn't even necessarily say bad forms. It's just the way that your body can shuttle things around and have a storm created in an area that shouldn't be. So, for instance, if you're eating these very heavy seed oil and inflammatory foods that can absolutely cause inflammation to your cell walls, and you have these cholesterol, specifically your LDL, that have the potential, they carry these cytokines that are, they're supposed to be cholesterol is a healing molecule, and we don't look at it like that. We look at it as the danger bad guy. And when you have these particles that are adhering to the cell wall, and then you have a cytokine release, so then you have these inflammation happening. Then your body has to heal an inflammation or essentially a bruised or damaged vessel. Then that is a problem, because then you can have these streaky plaques, and then you can get the hardening of the arteries.
To deposit there.
Yeah,
right.
And then you have an explosion of them, and they can.
Then the plaque ruptures, and that leads to a clot.
Yes,
right.
That is when you can have a bad issue. But you have to think about, and this is, like I said, an entire podcast in itself. But
and
cholesterol,
we will do that. Have we done cholesterol yet?
I don't think so.
I don't think we did.
No,
yeah.
But cholesterol back in the day, before the large statin studies came out, cholesterol's normal was.
Please don't get her started on statins.
Yeah, it's another one of those rabbit holes. But it used to be flagged at greater than 300, and now it's greater than 200.
And I tell this to my patients. I don't know all the data behind it. I'm not a huge numbers guy. I can't look at study after study. I'm familiar with a lot of data on cholesterol, but I really think that the number 200 was settled on because I look at so many sets of labs, and everybody's cholesterol is between like 200 and 225.
Yeah.
And so I think they picked the number 200 because they knew like 90% of the population was going to be above that number.
Yeah. And now look at all the people on the statins. When they test city water, and like when they're looking at the medication that are in water, it's the two highest things are statins and birth control. Yeah. Which is just wild. Like you're literally drinking statins, which, whatever. But that is an entire podcast in itself. But the story is, it's not all bad. We need it for our brain health, and this is why you can get, dementia and stuff like that when you take a statin and you're decreasing that good cholesterol.
Right, you need that cholesterol for cell membranes, for hormones, for everything in your body. I liked, again, we mentioned this, and I do listen to Dr. Paul Saladino's podcast, and he was talking one time, him or his guest, I can't remember. They did this analogy about how your body's being like a forest, and I really like that. When I think of metabolic health now, I think of all these different markers as a tree in the forest. And, when multiple trees are brown or dying, then obviously you're more at risk for a forest fire or a major event. But when you have a tree here or there that's a little bit brown, but everything else is green, your metabolic health is good, then it's like, okay, I'm much less worried about that. And that's kind of how cholesterol falls. If you are a metabolic disaster, if you've had heart attacks, if you have a lot of issues, you definitely do need to be more focused on your cholesterol. And there's certain ways to go about it, but it does need to be more of a focus. Whereas if you're a young, healthy person and your cholesterol level is slightly above 200, all your metabolic markers are good, you don't eat processed foods, you exercise, etc., I'm significantly less worried about that number.
Yeah, there's a lot more behind it than just a basic cholesterol
And there's lots of good ways to treat it before a statin.
Sure.
There's a lot of natural supplements. Start with your omega-3s. Yep. Definitely people, looking at things like berberine. We've done the nattokinase.
Yep. Red yeast rice.
Red yeast rice. Yeah, that's the one I was trying to think of.
Yeah, niacin. There's a lot that can bring down cholesterol a little bit more naturally. But once again, that's not necessarily the bad guy. It's the other, pardon my French, the shitstorm brewing behind that. That's going to be a problem with the cholesterol. And I tell this to my patients all the time. I can have somebody who just has an abnormal cholesterol. Everything else looks great. They're not insulin resistant, no fatty liver. They're healthy, young. They eat a good diet, compared to somebody who has everything else I just mentioned. That person I might be more concerned about than someone who's healthy with a mild spike in cholesterol.
Absolutely.
mild spike.
What are some other myths? What did we used to believe in?
Well, this is you for sure. You used to always tell me a calorie is just a calorie. And I told him like 3 years prior, I'm like, no, it's not. A calorie is not a calorie. You can eat 1,000 calories of Oreos and 1,000 calories of nutrient dense things, and your body, you're going to turn on different genes and cellular processing.
Right. Well, let's still argue this because a calorie is still just a calorie. But
what it
in
does,
terms of your overall metabolic health, they are not equivalent. And the sources of food that you get calories from are not equivalent. And the way your body processes it, the amount of energy used, what it leads to on the back end, a calorie is not just a calorie.
Yep. And I mean, this is the wellness journey that everybody's on. They count calories. They look at the back of a package thing that says 100 calories only, but that package of processed food has a shelf life of 10 years. And it's like, why eat this? Why not just not care about counting calories and eat as much fruits and vegetables as you can, add your protein of source, and have a well-diversified meal, and you wouldn't have to worry about any of this stuff. And that's where I think the gold is there. So it's not really about calorie counting. You shouldn't be calorie counting. If you know what to eat, you would never exceed those calories.
Any weight management patient that we see, you will not hear us use the words calorie counting. I mean, we will talk about counting macros, especially protein first and foremost, but you will not hear us. You will, every time, if this should be a broken record, you should get sick of hearing us say this, whole, nutrient dense, single ingredient, raw, organic, natural, as much as you can, a piece of meat, a fruit, a vegetable. That's what we preach. Eat as much calories as you can in that, because I guarantee you cannot eat too much if you just keep eating like that.
Yep. So a calorie is just a calorie.
But it's not.
But it's not.
There's been, people who are, more involved in the podcasting space than us who've had this conversation, and I'm interested to hear them talk. But, people will say, I can eat 1,000 calories a day in donuts and lose weight. And the answer to that is you are absolutely right. You can eat 1,000 calories a day from just straight glazed donuts and you will lose weight, but you will wreak absolute metabolic destruction on your body.
Long term. Remember, it's all about long-term health, long-term goals, because that is the only way it is ever going to be sustainable. You have to make a lifestyle change, or else no diet, no matter what you do, is ever going to work, because that's not sustainable. So, and why not just change the diet and lifestyle right away? And then, you don't have to worry about counting your package of 100-calorie cookies. So diet and sugar-free pop and all the other things that you should not be eating.
So I think this was a long time ago that I used to think this, but definitely we still have people that come to us, they're like, but listen, I drink Diet Coke every day. I don't drink regular Coke, and I buy things that say no sugar. And especially when it comes to some of the protein bars and some things that people are doing to try to lose weight. So let's definitely explain this, low fat, sugar free, and branded diet products are generally garbage. I mean, let's just say it. They're generally garbage. There is no reason you should ever drink a diet soda. I mean, obviously there's no reason you should ever drink a soda, but thinking that you're making a health conscious decision by switching to diet couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, when you start talking about the fake sugars, especially aspartame, sucralose are some of your worst. There are links with cancer. They are clearly linked to obesity, as they're so much more potent than natural glucose.
Well, that ties in perfectly how we just said a calorie is not just a calorie, because even though you're getting 0 calories, it does not come without a negative effect elsewhere. Your kidneys, and like we said, the different cellular processing, tricking your brain, how you store these things. It just doesn't go without, I've had
that
no
it can turn on
today.
and off. It can mess with hunger and satiety signals. Definitely long-term problems. And then again, it's a processed food. Same with, like she said, 100-calorie snacks. The worst thing, please do not ever think you're doing yourself a favor with frozen weight loss meals. Right? That was in the category
of TV dinners?
Yes. The healthy choice and whatever else they are. That falls in the category of Frankenstein foods.
It's crazy that still exists.
Unless you take a piece of raw meat and freeze it, I do not want to hear about you eating.
Which they might. They have gotten better. There's that one, I forget what company it is.
There is. I know what you're talking about.
I think it's no seed oils. They're very clean, but still, just do it yourself then.
Look at the ingredients, please, first. Make sure there's not, like we say, you want 7 ingredients or less. Please try not to get things you can't pronounce. Seed oils.
No sugars, all the things.
I don't mean to say that all of them are completely
Most of them.
useless.
The Salisbury steak dinners, that's the first thing with the corn that's probably 20 years old on there.
You're not doing yourself a favor. And again, when it's saying no sugar, please look at the back and see, is it substituting that for an artificial sweetener? If so, please put it back. Yep. Obviously, I would rather you have a little bit of organic cane sugar than, a supplement. An alternative. That's the word I wanted.
And then this ties into the cholesterol. Eating fat makes you fat, which is also not true. And if you've
Correct.
listened to, was that the pyramid one?
The food pyramid.
Yes, where we were talking about how you go low fat. That did not come without a risk. Like we said, we've seen shifts in females' hormones and even males' hormones. Fat is so important, but the good fats, this is the omega-3, staying away from the omega-6s. It really just does matter that when you have those fat, and I'm talking like your salmon, your fat from your fish oils and your fat from your grass-fed beef. Am I telling you to eat a super fatty steak for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? No. Or chew on, grass-fed butter all day? No. Or
Not
eat a
like
pound
our
of
daughter.
bacon? No. Yes. But those are things that we absolutely need. We need fats, but the good kind. So if I tell my patients, if you're going to get cottage cheese and it's like my favorite, the good culture, get the full fat. And then don't eat things that are, disgusting processed bad fats.
Right.
All your seed oils, which majority, what was this stat? It was like
20% of our calories.
30% of our calories are from seed oils, and those are the bad fats that we don't want to
So imagine if you're on a 2,000 calorie a day diet, 400 calories a day are coming from seed oil. These are processed, inflammatory, and nutritionally void of anything that is just taking up space in your body and your fat cells.
Yep. Next one is the more cardio that you do, that it will equal more weight loss. And and I'm sure that this resonates with many of weight loss patients. It's not just about doing multiple steps on a treadmill for 2 hours a day. Like, you can actually throw your body into a stress response and harbor even more weight, even though you think that you're doing good. So
yeah, skeletal muscle is your friend. We did an entire podcast on it. I had my friend Tony on the podcast recently who talked about his weight loss journey, and he's lost about 115 pounds over a year. And he mentioned how things really escalated. He lost about 50 pounds, and that's when he really found working out. It's not only become cathartic for him, like it's his personal time, but it has greatly accelerated his overall health, his skin, his back. I mean, his entire journey sort of revolves around that muscle mass, and yours should too. I tell this to every single patient that I see, whether they're seeing me for metabolic health, for weight loss, whatever it is. I say, if you take nothing away from our time together, please remember the importance of skeletal muscle mass from here on out. Protein first diet, all of our standard diet stuff, but protein as much as you can. I don't care about counting calories, count your protein. And if you remember that one thing throughout your life, you're going to be moving in the right direction.
And I say this every single time he says protein, make sure it's clean sources, not your protein bars and your super processed protein shakes like the muscle milks. Please just eat clean sources of protein. So we said, grass-fed beef, wild-caught salmon, the chomp sticks, the lineage beef sticks that we were talking about earlier, those types of
as
protein.
we mentioned with the frozen, I mean, there are some protein bars, obviously there's going to be some, very few of us are going to get away in our life with zero processed foods, right? We've said that. We have 4 kids. Processed foods are in our life to some extent. We try to keep it, less than 10%. That being said, same with the frozen dinner. She said there's some good ones. Same with protein bars. There's some good ones. I was looking at the Transparent Lab ones that my friend brought recently. I know there's a couple
RX
other
bars.
Yeah, good RX. That's a little
RX.
less protein, but that's good for me because
Good
they're.
RX is the website. They're just RX.
Oh
bars,
yeah,
aren't
RX bars. Yeah, sorry.
you got a prescription to
Yeah.
go to. Good RX.
Those are good for someone like me because I can't do dairy.
Yep.
Less protein in it, and again, same with protein powders. There's some horrible protein powders out there. There's also very clean ones.
Yeah.
We use Truvani. Transparent Labs is a good one. Naked Whey is another popular one.
Gain, Just Ingredients. They're a little bit more expensive, but then just eat your food if you can't,
If you check out Rixa Health on social media, I did a live on there that's on our page where I went on and spent about 30 minutes talking about protein, fiber, and stuff like that. It's a great source.
Yep. All right, moving on. And this one I can speak for personally because I've done all of these little quick fixes, but I want to call them the mid-level marketing products. And you guys know what I'm talking about. The wraps, the fat burners, the shakes, the smoothies, the pink drinks. Like, you guys know what I'm talking about. And not to say, I'm not to shaming them and I'm not to say that they can't help people, but and I say this 1,000 times, you will never supplement yourself out of a shitty lifestyle ever. Like, ever. You're not going to eat a pink or drink a pink drink while you're having a fast food dinner. It just doesn't work that way. So this goes back to lifestyle. And quite literally, this is the longest sustainable lifestyle we've ever had, because now that we've changed it and we know what we're doing, makes all the difference in the world. I mean, we've been clean eating like this for probably 4 years now. It was right after we did the plant-based and all of that stuff that we were talking about, where we were just like, no.
And each year we get better at it. You know, I mean, we've learned you learn new things. You get ready to take the next step. You maybe weren't ready to get rid of a couple things from your life before, and then you're finally like, yeah, why am I doing that? That's stupid. I would say probably one of the biggest ones for me in the last year and a half is alcohol. I still, until about a year and a half ago, I still like to have a drink. I would say probably 3 or 4 times a week. And I'm talking a single drink at night. I might make a margarita or an old fashioned or a Manhattan, but I would do that probably 3 or 4 nights a week. And about a year and a half ago, I think is when I really stepped away from that, and I have no desire to go back. And same with you. I mean, you would do it a little less than me, but you're...
Well, it's now that you don't drink, when you do, you feel like death. Like you have like a 3-day brain fog, hangover, it lingers, your brain just can't function very well. And we've seen a major difference on stop drinking. And now I don't even care. Yeah. It's not worth feeling like that. I'll have a glass of wine. Like we went on vacation. Yeah. I had a glass of wine. I mean, granted, it was literally an open bar, and I had a glass of wine once a night. That's it. And even then I could feel just a little bit of brain fog. But why? You can definitely tell that when you rid those toxins from your body, because it's not a surprise, alcohol is a toxin. When you rid that from your body and you almost like dabble in it again, you feel that effect way more than you ever did if it was normal in your life.
Yeah, definitely. It's the byproducts of the alcohol metabolism that really get you to, and they can stick around longer as well. So I totally agree with that. And this is probably a cool time. Let's just talk about that. So with our lifestyle, we took our first vacation in 2 years in the last couple weeks, and we went to a wellness resort in the West Indies. And I mean, it was awesome. Everything was built around exercise, clean eating. We had spa treatments every day. We were out in the sun, getting fresh air. There was no TV in our bedroom.
There's like 80-year-olds kicking our butt in workouts.
Yeah, pickleball, we got whooped, everything, you know. But the point is, that's a lifestyle. Like our lifestyle now, we go on vacation, it's about health. And this doesn't mean you all have to do that as well. It just shows you how things can lead to more. You know, 5 years ago, we wouldn't have done that. We would have probably been in the Caribbean or something at a party resort, you know.
And it goes back to that lifestyle. And we were sitting literally drinking our immune shots that they made us at the bar. And I like no alcohol. It was just the immunity shots. So ginger, turmeric.
I had like a chocolate protein powder orange juice shot.
And as we're sitting there like sipping on our little shots, I'm looking around and I'm like, have you noticed that I don't think that there's one overweight person here, like maybe 1 or 2 if that, but you're talking hundreds of people. And I'm talking elderly that are walking around in bikinis, like they understand the
75-year-old guy that we couldn't catch on the beach. There was like a beach fit class. Yeah. This guy had to be in his 70s, and they were playing they were doing duck goose. And so this was a fitness class. It was an hour beach fitness class. And this guy, he went first, and he hit me as the goose first. So he goes, they have you walk in a circle. He did duck, and he hit goose on me. And I get up, and I'm thinking, all right, I don't want to like, you know, catch this guy in 1 second. This dude starts running, and I'm like, I'm sprinting. I couldn't catch him.
He got me.
And Mia was about to cry when he was chasing her.
I'm like, I'm in shape, and I'm running from it.
She goes, I can't get away from this man.
Yeah, it's just wild. But it goes back to the lifestyle, and you can tell like these people are fit and healthy, and they're going to live longer, and their muscle mass is going to be, you know, preserved. Go to the last podcast or the last couple podcasts we've had. Like it makes a difference when you make it a lifestyle change, and that's what you're going for. Nobody wants to yo-yo their way through life on these diets, but I digress. But anyway, okay, the next one, wellness in the wild. So, you know, sharing any frustration, challenges, or in real life, traveling, the airport, that sucks, trying to get anything healthy from there. Honestly, I feel like there's the hard-boiled eggs and things like that's really the only thing healthy in the airport that we could dabble in. That's the things that we were going to touch on for traveling. Yeah, I mean, obviously, for people who travel a lot, you have to get really good. We met a gentleman who was going to Mexico, and he had 50 pounds of food in his suitcase. You know, that was his carry-on. Yeah. He had that was his check.
Yeah,
he had his bag. 1 bag of carry-on, and that was his clothes. And then he checked 100% of his food there that he was going to have for a week. So yeah, it definitely is hard if you're a traveling person. You know, you have to be aggressive about planning, strategizing, you know, use Amazon to your advantage if you know the address that you're going to, different things like that. Find those cleaner, yes, they might be a little bit processed, but those cleaner versions of bars, powders, shakes, whatever it is that you do. But yeah, it was tough. And I mean, I ordered an airport chicken wing meal on the way back. That was just like, it was so disgusting. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away because I paid for it, but it was just absolutely gross. Yeah. And then you have to sit on a plane for however many hours, and it's just terrible. Yeah. But yeah, so you just got to plan ahead, guys. That's going to be the most success. Plan ahead, or, you know, try not to eat on your 2-hour flight. You'll be fine. Are you done any more on that one? So the next one is, what are some things that we do at home to keep a lower toxic load? This goes endless. I make my own laundry detergent. We do a lot. I make my own, like the stuff that you sprinkle on your carpet to make it smell better. It's just baking soda and essential oils. We do a lot of
I mean,
cleaners.
it starts, you almost have to break it up into categories.
Yeah.
Things we put on our body, things we put in our body. We started with the Yucca app a few years ago. You know, we don't really even use an app anymore because we kind of know our brands, we know our products, but we still check the ingredients. There are things that we've used in the past that they might get bought by a different company or the formulation gets changed and we switch it out. What was that? There's a fig kind of bar that we had ate for a long time that didn't have seed oils that now have seed oils. So we subbed those out. But yeah, we filter all of our water. We don't have a whole house system. So we just use a countertop reverse osmosis.
Yep,
we
the
filter our shower water, our soaps, shampoos, conditioners, toothpaste, everything that goes on or in our body, we pay attention to.
Yeah. And these aren't expensive swaps. Like my shower head that's, filters out heavy metals and things like that. That was like $30 or $40. You replace it a couple times a year. And that's fine. Like if your
I think
kids
it said
are
even
in
once a year. There was one filter replacement, and then I think you have to get a new one. So it probably lasts about a year.
How many children the directions.
And we have really hard water. We're on well water, so it might get beat up a little quicker.
Toothpaste. That's another good one. So we use the hydroxyapatite toothpaste, the mineral. It's like a powder. And then we also, a few times a week, use one that has like a turmeric. It's more of a natural one. A lot of
like all natural
oils.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was $6 on Amazon. It's
Fluoride
all
free.
Organic, all natural. It was $6.
Yeah. And that's for the kids.
For a big tube.
And speaking of the kids, I don't put anything on them or myself that is like toxic. So my lotions are beef tallow, coconut oil. That is pretty much it. That's my kids' lotions completely. They have these little essential oil roll-on balms that they like, or roll-on oils. They have a sleep one. They have an energizing one.
And those really work. We couldn't
They're
figure
really
out why
potent.
our kids were bouncing off the walls at night, and they were using the citrus essential oil.
Yeah,
at
the
night.
Awakening one.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
we had to
gotta
switch that out. Yeah.
So, but they really make a difference, and my kids love it. I have a almost 2-year-old, and every day she'll go, beef tallow, and she'll ask for her beef tallow on. Granted, she eats it half the time, but it's just beef tallow, so she can eat it. It's fine. But anyway, things like that you're putting on your skin. Your skin is the biggest absorbable organ you have. It's, keeps things out, but also can absorb things in. So be careful of what you put on it. None of that Bath and Body Works stuff. I still can't believe that people even shop there. Candles, endocrine disruptors. Just know what you're putting on your body, guys. It's hormonal disrupting.
Understand that scents of coming from almost any source, unless it's just a natural product, are most likely in some way disrupting a hormone in your body. A hormone channel, hormone pathway, production, utilization, whatever it is, it's probably going to have an effect.
Yeah, so no Axe
The
body
plugins,
sprays.
oh my God. I was at an Airbnb recently. I've been working in Georgia. When you walked in, it was all I could smell. I literally debated leaving the Airbnb.
that's
I was
terrible.
almost going to go to a different place. I unplugged it. I left for a couple hours. I came back. It was livable, but it was awful.
And it's great. It's funny that you say that because I used to have a few friends that used to work at, this was forever ago, the Abercrombie and Fitch, and they left because they're like, every single time I go to work, I get a headache. And it's, you walk in there and it's like a massive endocrine disruptor. So pay attention. Your body, if you can smell something and it's not just like a pine needle or natural essential oils, it's going to likely be toxic.
We're running low. What is our... Almost through it.
Yep. I think the last one is just the days that you don't feel like being healthy, which, I mean, life's hard and you have to choose your pathway. It's hard being unhealthy and it's hard being healthy. And it's a lot harder of a path to remain unhealthy than it is to just find your healthy habits and continue with it and have a nice long longevity journey.
Yeah, I say this all the time. Please think about the decisions you make in your teens, but I mean, specifically your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. You are going to feel that in your 50s, your 60s, and your 70s. I know you feel great now. You might be 25 years old listening to this podcast, eating kind of crappy, drinking alcohol, saying I feel great, right? But think of 55-year-old you and then 75-year-old you, and I promise you want to make some of those changes now.
Yep, it's building up.
I will say, though, again, I'm always first to admit, we're not perfect. There are days, I work in an emergency department. The other day, they brought in chicken sandwiches from a fast food restaurant. I had one of those loaded with seed oils. The buns were garbage. Felt like crap after. And also my all-time favorite, I can't resist it, cheap food when I'm going to have something, cheesy gordita crunch.
Oh, I thought you were going to say your stupid pine nuts or whatever they're called.
The what?
The nuts that you get.
Oh, those are corn nuts.
Oh my
I get those from
gosh.
gas stations occasionally when I'm traveling. Ranch corn nuts are a vice.
Don't listen to his advice. Anyway.
Advice, not advice.
No, but I'm saying don't listen to that. Anyway, so that sums it up. You know, and if you have no idea where to start, you're completely lost. You're like, this sounds like great, but I have no idea, you know, how to even launch this journey. Get a hold of us. Rixa Health. We'll take care of you. We go over
the first place,
stuff.
go to our social media. You don't have to pay a single thing. We put tons of videos up there. It's like lifestyle content. It's not just for weight loss. It's for metabolic health. That's the first place. Our website, rixahealth.com. Lots of FAQs, important information there. And then like Mia said, if you would like an appointment, please feel free to book one. We're happy to do this. This is what we do.
Yep. The more you know, the better you can do. And share it, like, share, follow with a friend if you feel like this can resonate in any way. We have a lot more podcasts. We plan on doing a lot more. And thanks for listening, guys. But anything else you want to add to
No,
that?
thank
Okay.
you.
All
We
right.
appreciate the support through 10 episodes.
Yep. Legal mumbo jumbo. Just a reminder, this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not medical advice. It is not a substitute for professional care, diagnosis, and or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. Remember that you have the power. Join us in next time to get more knowledge. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.